You can see how cold it is today just from how the dew froze on top of the jewel. So in this video I'm going to be restoring two original Xboxes I got from my local flea market for $10 a piece. Now the one on the right has been opened by the previous owner, and the one on the left has never been opened. I was the first one to open it. And the one on the right, it has a Via power supply, it has Samsung RAM. I've never had a version 1.1 Xbox with a Via power supply before. Normally it's a Foxconn or a Delta single row power supply. And I was surprised I didn't get like the first version of the Seagate hard drive. But instead I got a Western Digital hard drive and the Thompson drive, which I'll get to later, but it was gently put together by the previous owner prior to try to fix it. And it was pretty dusty on the inside. One irritating thing while I was taking apart or trying to remove the fan from the chassis, one of the clips broke, which has happened to me before because, you know, it's 20-year-old plastic, it's pretty brittle. So I got plenty of parts and spare consoles I could use. And I'm just rinsing everything out with a hose and dish soap. Now I washed the case plastics probably 5 or 6 times with the hose and dish soap. It won't hurt the electronics to rinse it out with the water hose, but don't have power going through it while it's still wet or damp. Make sure it's really dry. Don't let it sit for a couple hours at a time because it will rust or it will corrode. So as long as you dry it off, like say a hair dryer, in the first 3 or 4 hours after you rinse it off, you should be fine. So like right here, I just left everything in the chassis and just sprinkled some soap in there. And both the RF shields were really rusty, so I did remove both of them. But that's what I do with all my original Xboxes. Normally they're not worth saving. I've only had one out of the 12 I bought that wasn't rusted and actually in good condition. And that's the only one I kept. And they really don't do anything, honestly, so I just remove them every time. Because they get in the way for modding and stuff, because you have to insulate the bottom. Here I'm just replacing the thermal paste on the 1.1 Xbox. Now for some reason I've never had this happen to me before, that the GPU was easier to clean off than the CPU. Normally it's the opposite. But you can see me struggling scrubbing it off with Goo Gone and alcohol. And you want to be careful with the CPU heatsink clamp. Since it is plastic, I have broken one before, and it's really irritating to find a replacement. But thankfully, I have several parts consoles I can just take those parts off of. Now I'm just reassembling it. Now I did only put back about 75% of the screws, since I knew I'd be coming back into it soon. I don't put all the screws back in unless I know I'm done with it. And since I knew I wasn't done with it yet, so I just put in the screws in there to keep it together. And be sure to subscribe, because I will be replacing the clock capacitor here in the next couple of months before it leaks. And I'll be T-SOT flashing it. This will be the first T-SOT flash I've ever done. I've only done mod chips. Now I'm just reassembling that version 1.1 Xbox, and I'm taking the self-tapping screws out and I'm fixing the lid of the Thompson drive. I don't know what they were thinking when they tried to quote unquote fix this drive. If anything, they just made it worse, because they didn't put it back together right, and they destroyed the screw holes for the lid. And sadly, I don't have any spare parts for these drives, because I only had 3. One I gave away and one I threw away, and this is my 3rd one. And looking at what this poor drive has gone through, I was certain it wasn't going to read anything, even with my pristine Halo Combat Evolved game that has like maybe 5 scratches on it. And here's that 1.6B Xbox. Now, putting it back together, I knew both of them would turn on, because they're pretty hardy consoles. But one thing I wasn't expecting is to get error 16 from a Seagate hard drive. I've never had one of those fail on me, but the version 1.1 fired up just fine. And you get the infamous set the time screen. But after that, there's a bunch of saves from 20 years ago and stuff like that. And as I suspected, it couldn't read any games. So it wasn't a surprise to me. But anyways guys, I hope you liked this video. Please consider subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great day.